I'm General of the Armies Ulysses S. Grant, and today I should like to lift up for your kind consideration a description of the surrender at Appomattox from a Confederate soldier who surrendered there. This is most interesting, I feel, and well worthy of your time and consideration. It is written by Dr. Henry A. Minor and is as follows. Dr. Henry A. Minor's account of General Lee's surrender at Appomattox from the Macon, Mississippi Beacon, April of 1914. I was the surgeon of the 9th Alabama Volunteers. Early in the morning of the 9th of April, 1865, we were halted in an old field about a mile from Appomattox Courthouse. Faced to the right, marched in line about 100 yards, halted, stood at ease. Soon afterwards, Field's division came up, were halted, faced to the left, marched 100 yards, halted, stood at ease. We had heard much of the last ditch. Here it was. Up to this time, we knew nothing of what was in our front, had not thought of surrender. After an hour or two, I saw coming from the courthouse a cavalcade, 2 officers in front, one wearing the gray, the other the blue. About 20 men behind them, one half gray, the other blue. As they came up, I recognized Colonel Fairfax of General Longstreet's staff. Stepping into the road, I asked, "Colonel, what means this?" His answer was, "General Lee has surrendered to General Grant." I was shocked beyond expression. The men of our regiment called to me from the line to come to them and to tell them what had occurred. No words can express the scene that followed. They had not thought of surrender, but they stood in line. After a while, they were allowed to stack arms, but were ordered to remain near the line. We camped there until we started home. We were not allowed to wander about. There were no other troops in sight except mounted Federal vedettes all around us about a mile away. Altogether, we remained in this bullpen 4 days. The Federals indulged in no boasts nor firing of guns, no cheers that we heard. Never in all history was a captured army treated with so much respect. We were half-starved, too faint and weary. We were given 1 day's short rations while there, the Federals stating that they themselves had very little food. On the 10th, we were marched a mile or more, then came in sight of the U.S. Army, which we then saw for the first time at this place. In front of us was a field with 2 ridges or hills running parallel about 1/2 mile apart. A cross ridge connected them, making 3 sides of a parallelogram, with the end next to us open. On the 3 sides of this were standing a large Federal army, many thousands, all armed and in serried ranks, with arms at shoulder, flags flying, officers in their places. It was a grand sight. No cheering, no orders audible to us. Perfect silence. We entered the open end of this parallelogram halfway between the 2 lines. Oh, the heartbreaking ordeal for us. Every officer alert, arms to right, flags flying. Oh, the poor fellows. I cannot keep from shedding tears now, all these years after. ragged, dirty, unkempt, many barefooted, many coatless, some hatless, eyes swollen, oh so hungry and weary. Yet as they entered this place where they were to be disarmed and turned loose, moneyless, to find their way back to their homes in the various southern states, where mothers, wives, and children were so poor, so helpless, where houses had been burned and farm animals had died or been carried off, these poor fellows dropped their route step and fell into parade step, threw back their shoulders, raised their drooping heads, and looked at the brave array of blue on both sides and in front of them. Oh, how proud of them was I, were all of us, for we were all well nigh alike in clothing and other essentials. When General Mahone had progressed so far that the rear of our division was within the parallelogram, he halted his men and faced them to the left, ordered them to close up, then ordered them to stack arms. What of the Federals? General Grant and his men treated us nobly, more nobly than was ever a conquered army treated before or since. The conduct of the Federals on this occasion was soothing and comforting beyond anything words can express. As the head of the column entered this parallelogram, every flag in that great Federal army came to and was held at salute. Every officer's sword was drawn and held in salute, and every man who carried a gun brought it and held it at salute so long as we remained there. We looked in amazement. The army that we had been fighting so long, that we were now surrendering to, had suddenly overwhelmed us with kindly courtesy and high appreciation of our soldierly qualities. They stood thus until our forces had passed out. It is impossible to estimate the comfort and relief this treatment gave us. It relaxed the tension of our nerves. We went back to camp, if that old field barren of tents, blankets, food, horses, or wagons could properly be called a camp. On the evening of the third day, we got our paroles. Next morning, there was no army there. No Federals, no Confederates. On the second day before we had surrendered our arms, we saw coming toward us 2 horsemen. Soon we knew that the foremost one was our dear old General Lee, with no escort save one orderly. He was riding the old gray thoroughbred Traveler. As he came up, we strung ourselves along both sides of the road. He lifted his hat and kept it up in his usual salute. His eyes were swollen. He looked oh so aged and sad. He did not speak. We stood with heads bare and streaming eyes. He passed on until out of sight. We never saw him again. We had received his last order, thanking us, praising us, loving us, and bidding us to go to our homes, rebuild them, and make good and loyal citizens of the United States. We had submitted our cause to the arbitration of the sword. The game had been played. We had lost. Dear old General, he was the greatest of the great in his prosperity. Adversity and defeat only brought out the noblest characteristics of his Christian manhood. The next day we remained in the bullpen awaiting our paroles. About night, we, myself and my brother, got our paroles and our last order from General Lee, his farewell to his soldiers. General Order Number 9. After 4 years of arduous service marked by unsurpassed courage and fortitude, the Army of Northern Virginia has been compelled to yield to overwhelming numbers and resources. I need not tell the brave survivors of so many hard-fought battles who have remained steadfast to the last that I have consented to this result from no distrust of them, but feeling that valor and devotion could accomplish nothing that could compensate for the loss that must have attended the continuance of the contest, I determined to avoid the useless sacrifice of those whose past services have endeared them to their countrymen. By the terms of the agreement, officers and men can return to their homes and remain until exchanged. You will take with you the satisfaction that proceeds from a consciousness of duty faithfully performed, and I earnestly pray that a merciful God will extend to you his blessings and protection. With an unceasing admiration of your constancy and devotion to your country, and a grateful remembrance of your kind and generous consideration for myself, I bid you all an affectionate farewell. Neither of us had a cent of money, no horse. It was between 800 and 900 miles to my home in Macon, Mississippi. We were weak from want of food. We had no baggage. We prayed for help and guidance to him who was able to help, and we started home. I feel this to be moving and yes, even compelling, not to say the least insightful, but it is a marvelous and wonderful emotion that is expressed in a clear description of what happened there at the surrender given by a loyal and devoted Confederate soldier who had fought to the last about the surrender and what had happened there. Until we come together again, I am General of the Armies Ulysses S. Grant, bidding you good day.